Hey, it's Joyce Conroy, host of The Block Party. We are back on Ernie's Corner. And Ernie, I must say, you look really spiffy today.
Well, being on the corner, I'm kind of like the flagship of what's to come. Or what has been and is still happening. So I wanted to sort of spiff up today since we're talking about a pretty iconic logo and how it started. Thank you. Well, I'm not really a fashion horse or whatever they call those, but this shirt was given to me by Chooch, who was the road manager for the Rolling Stones from the beginning. And we became really good friends through a mutual friend, a guy named Rich Mandela, who was worked at a sound company and at Alltech Lansing, and we had Chooch in common, and it was really kind of a cool thing. And so Chooch got me this shirt years ago when it first came out. So I've got it and I wear it from time to time, but today's a special occasion. And so we're going to be talking about the Rolling Stones tongue and kind of how it started, and maybe touch on a little bit of the controversy of which came first, the chicken or the egg, John Pichet or Ernie Shuffler or John Pichet. There's people in both camps, and all I know is how it happened for me, and that's what we're going to talk about. In 1969, I graduated art school, and I decided that if I was going to be in advertising, we got to go backwards a little bit to go forward. So in 1969, I graduated art school, went to New York because I wanted to work on Madison Avenue, like we talked about before. And that was the place to go, not San Francisco. So I packed up everything and went to New York, and I got a job right away with a small company, a small agency called Carloni and Associates, who had one big account, which was International Paper Company, and they were responsible for the national sales meeting that they had once a year, and so they were tasked with creating a theme, creating an entertaining piece of show that happened during this 3-day sales meeting. They had 500 salespeople from all over the United States come into the Roosevelt Hotel. So that was my first project, and it was called Dolls Alive. So I created a off-Broadway Rockettes kind of show, and it was with singers and dancers, and we actually hired Skip, who was a songwriter and wrote 10 songs about paper and all that stuff, and we pressed 500 albums, and we gave those to the participants of the sales meeting. And what you see over here on this side is the label that I did in 1969 for the Dolls Alive record that we put into an octagon album cover that I designed. And there was a whole presentation that went along with Dolls Alive. There was mailers and teasers and posters and this album, and it won all these awards, and it hung in the Union Carbide building. And after I had done that, I was approached by a headhunter who wait, I got to back up again a little bit, because after I did Dolls Alive, I went to another company that was on Madison Avenue, which was my whole goal. And they were a bigger agency called Norman Levitt. And they had a bunch of accounts and, more corporate than anything else. But they had one really cool music account, and that was Jagger Records. And I think we had talked about this before, Jesus Christ Superstar. They hired me to compete against two art directors who had worked there and left the company and was taking Jagger Records with them. The competition was for Jesus Christ Superstar. We won the account. We kept the account. And that was where I went with, where I took Dolls Alive to another agency that just did album covers. That's all they did. And I showed them the Jesus Christ Superstar stuff. And they said, well, this is really great, because it was very current. It was very controversial. And this was just a few months after it came out, and everybody was talking about it. And so this headhunter took me and put me over there to this other agency, and they were looking at the stuff. And the owner said, well, what else do you have? And I said, well, I've got this album that I did for International Paper Company. It was never released. It was a gift to all the participants in the sales meeting. And so he's looking at it, And he opened up the back and pulled out the record, and he's looking at the label, and he starts telling me this story about how he and Marshall Chess had grown up together in Chicago, and Marshall's dad had sold Chess Records, or had sold it, and then it got sold to Atlantic, and they made his dad president. He put Marshall in charge of managing the Rolling Stones. So Marshall wanted to create a logo for the Stones because they really hadn't had one. And so he went to his friend, and who owned the agency that I was at, Craig Braun. And Craig needed to design a logo, but his creative director got ill with a paralyzing infection in his spine. And so I was just, again, timing is everything. I was in the right spot at the right time with the right stuff. And so he's telling me this story. And he said, you know, if you took this label that you did with these pair of lips and you went upstairs to my art department and you drew a tongue on the outside of that, I think I could sell that to the Stones for their logo. So I went upstairs to his art department. It was in a little 3-story brownstone on 53rd Street between Park and Madison. So I was still close to Madison Avenue, but around the corner from Madison. Kind of like I was on the corner, like I am with your block show. And then I went around the corner and down the street, you know, halfway down the street. But I could still see the corner, you know, which is great. So anyway, so I did the drawing. He said, okay, this is great. I went down to his office. He said, wait here. He went to Andy Warhol's factory where Marshall was, showed him the logo. Marshall loved it. And that's kind of how it started, you know. And I was thinking that it was going to really be on the album packaging, but it turned out that it wasn't. It turned out that, actually, I'm going to use this one. What it turned out to be was all the merchandising and marketing. The Stones used John Pichet's version on the album cover. And then all my logo was on all the T-shirts and all the roach clips and in-store signs and all that stuff that was used for the merchandising and marketing of the Sticky Finger album. And what you see behind me now is, and I don't know how to make things a little bit smaller, but what you see around the perimeter there is other sketches. When I did that logo and came back downstairs and gave it to Craig, he went off and they kept that sketch. Marshall kept the sketch. So I got awarded the project. I was a freelancer. And, you know, after a couple of weeks, he hired me to work on other albums and on the merchandising of all this stuff. And then the album came out and, you know, it was like, oh, where's my logo? Well, they used Pichet's logo on the album, which was fine. Because again, it comes down to, you know, this is really kind of where we are with it in terms of which one came first, the chicken or the egg. And what you see there is my version on the left, Pichet's version in the middle, and what Craig Braun takes credit for on the right side there. So people actually look at this and think they're all the same, you know. And I guess I can completely see the difference, you know. It's like showing one of these things to somebody and find the different one, and there's like 16 puppies and they all have spots but one, you know, or something like that. This is kind of like, are you really kidding me? People look at these three and can't tell that they're different. You know, I mean, it's really kind of a no-brainer, you know, but that's just me. So anyway, what ended up happening was, here's a sample of just some of the stuff. That's the drawing in progress that I had done when I created that. And because I was smart enough, I was at home and I was doing this, and I was smart enough to take a picture of each phase of the drawing. So I have that, and I have the original sketches, and I have the original line art, and I have the original mechanical for that logo. And it's pretty amazing, especially, you know, when you see, and all you know, your neighbors, my neighbors on the block have been very, very, you know, resourceful in finding me these images and sending them into me, you know, and some of them are not my logo, and I thank them anyway, but they'll say, look what was just posted with your logo on it and stuff, you know, and they really couldn't see the difference, but God bless them, you know, they have great hearts, you know. But so anyway, you know, it's been an interesting thing that still kind of goes on. I think that the Stones really like the controversy. I mean, if you think about what they do, it's all about controversy. I mean, all of them. Alice, you know, we were talking earlier about these bands that have been around since that era, and there's less than a handful. You know, they're still selling out arenas and having tours. Alice is touring with 3 different bands. You know, he's got 3 different bands he tours with. The Stones are, you know, and he's in the studio supposedly working on a new album, I heard, and or a couple of albums at the same time. And, it's just, these guys are amazing. And you get to the point, because I kind of like that myself. You get to an age where you go, okay, this is pretty amazing. I've been able to get this far, and I feel that I'm at the height of my career. I feel that way. I'm sure Alice, I'm sure Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, all of them feel the same way. You get to that age where you just go, okay, I don't have, I may have 50 years in a career, but I don't have another 50 years to prolong it. So I need to get out as much as I can, but also keep the quality of what I can, and that's, that comes down to the individuals and how they promote themselves. And, I like to think that what I do, people are discovering, and they like the backstories, and, they also like to buy prints and stuff like that. And, I make them very affordable. And, it's just a matter of getting the stuff out there. And like I said, for you, giving me this opportunity to sort of stand out on the corner, of your block is very appreciative of my part. You're just amazing, Joyce, really. And I love you. It's just great. And I love the neighbors on the block. Everybody seems to be really cool. And I like when they comment on Ernie's Corner, and, it's just, I found, and we've been doing this now for quite a while, not a whole long, but, I'm really loving it more and more. And I thank you. I can't thank you enough for giving me the opportunity to do it on a regular basis. And as far as music, there's so much. That Sticky Finger album, I could say, play the whole album, and I'm sure nobody would object. But, I'm down to two. Can't You Hear Me Knocking? Well, actually three. Brown Sugar, Can't You Hear Me Knocking, and Wild Horses. So I'm going to leave it up to you, Joyce. You pick the one out of those three, and you play it. Okay?
Okay, you better. Yeah, I might even play all three.
Well, there you go. Then we got a trifecta.